In this video, we're going to be talking about 10 success levers that you can leverage to to get the success you want in life. This is based on years and years, almost 10 years of studying successful people through hundreds of books, tens of thousands of videos, interviews, podcasts, and so forth. And what I mean by levers are factors towards success. You see, there's about 100 different levers that people can use and tweak to increase their success in life. And most people are not aware of all the other factors of success that I've found to be contributing factors in certain circumstances. They know of the common ones, but like hard work, of course, you got to work harder. But what about the other ones that are maybe lesser known that people kind of neglect towards their success? And just as a disclaimer before we get into this, you don't have to have 100% and use every single lever out there to succeed. In fact, even the most successful people, there are levers that they do not use and they still succeed despite that. Two examples are Dustin Moskovitz and Warren Buffett. Warren is one of my biggest role models, and still have to admit that him and Dustin, in their come up over decades, had horrible diets, nutritions, and health. And that's a lever that a lot of successful people attribute to greater brain performance, longevity, health, and happiness. And Warren's just one of those. It's another outlier thing that people fail to realize. He hasn't drank anything other than Coca-Cola soda for decades, and yet he hasn't had a heart attack, and he's almost 90. So that's something that's also abnormal. So he's an outlier and lucky in various ways, including how his body functions in terms of his health. So you can't rely on that. You have to do your best to increase as many levers as you sustainably can and increase your chances for success. That's all you can do. There's no guarantee here. So let's get into what are the lesser known common levers other than hard work and health, nutrition, and those things, because those are very important. But what else can you do? Let's start with some of the simple ones. Perseverance. Most people, they give up after one YouTube video they release. Some might even give up after 100 or 1,000. Here I am at 1,600 public YouTube videos on this channel alone. Keep in mind, this was not my first YouTube channel, and I'm still going. So perseverance is something that most people, they severely undervalue. And I could talk about this for ages, but we got to keep this going. I'm learning from my videos. I got to keep these tips concise. Let's go on to tip number 2. What's the second lever? Storytelling. Storytelling has contributed to billions of dollars in the entertainment industry. From movies to films to TV shows to music. Why do you think people do so well? Why do you think Taylor Swift's songs do so well? It's because the whole song is a story. Even some of the top songs that continue to hit the charts today, like Driver's License, or what's it called? There's that new song by something Rodrigo. It's an entire story in a song. And so it's the same thing. Storytelling is a skill. You can learn it. There are hundreds of books on it. There's books. I recommend the books by Michael Haig as a starter. But if you know how to structure and tell a good story, huge benefit to any type of selling or success in life. Number 3, I'm going to bucket 2 into 1, selling and persuasion. Let's just be frank. On some level, you're persuading in most interactions. And this doesn't have to be nefarious or manipulative. It can simply mean positioning what you really have to offer so that they're aware of it and people understand it and they value it. You know, some people undersell themselves. Some people don't know how to persuade and present an empathetic thing, a view that presents their value to another person, which means you fail at getting stuff that could rocket your career. Joe Rogan, he was able to leverage what he did to get a lot of famous celebrities on his show. That requires persuasion to get them to say yes when they have such busy lives, and podcasting at the time was such a new thing. I could keep talking about this, but let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is curiosity. This may be a strange one, but there's a reason Brian Grazer, one of the most successful movie producers, and directors, and I guess, coordinators in Hollywood. He wrote an entire book on how he believes his success came from curiosity. When I first heard this, I was curious, pun intended. And basically, I was like, wow, that's a strange one. I've never heard this one before. Usually it's hard work and a lot of those other stuff. But this guy's saying it's curiosity. So you really learn about it and how he applied curiosity to everything, which allowed him to come up with unique stories and unique angles that has allowed him to succeed in Hollywood. So just keep that in mind. That's something that I don't think people really ever consider. I wrote a whole blog post about, wow, Brian Grazer's philosophy, and a podcast episode about it, because it's so great. I mean, curiosity can pan into every area of your life. If you're a scientist, that's why Thomas Edison, Einstein, Newton, they succeeded. They were curious. Da Vinci, I mean, super curious guy. Or let's talk about talk show hosts. Why do you think certain talk show hosts are so good at what they do? Part of it is because they're actually curious, genuinely interested in the lives of other people when they ask questions. Number 6 points. Let's talk about focus. Focus is one that is maybe a bit more common if you study people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. I remember this is a very common story, at least in the personal development world, but Warren and Bill, the two richest people in the world, they were in a room with a few other people, and Bill's dad said, I want you all to, think about it shortly and then write down the one word that led to your success. And Bill and Warren both wrote down the same word. Mind blown. And that was focus. They were so focused on that one thing that they became super good at it. Very hard to do, and maybe not always the best advice for someone who's still trying to taste and test their passions. But once you find your passion and that one goal that you want to hit, that's when you can focus and drill in on it. And after 30 years of constant work, 18 hours a day, or maybe just 8 hours a day, I don't know, you can really get so far ahead of other people. Number 7, hard work, just kidding. It's number 7 is about emotional intelligence. This is a lever. It's synonymous with social intelligence, arguably. Like some people would call it social or say they're different, but generally they're in the same realm. This is an area that I still think is way undervalued. Obviously, it's gotten a lot more attention lately because people are understanding, okay, the whole IQ and math and reasoning and verbal skills, there's a lot of people who still fail in life despite having these high levels of those things. I'm telling you, this is still so undervalued because I see it all the time. Just the other day, I heard a story about this guy who, someone I knew this guy who was basically the top of his class in med school. He was extremely smart in terms of IQ and reasoning. However, he failed to get into basically every med school he applied to in that realm where you're transitioning from the first 4 years to the next 4, where you're, I guess, actually in the school and practicing. And in that matchmaking process, he wasn't able to get in, even though he was scoring top of the class, beating out everyone. Why? Because, man, was his social intelligence bad. He was super immature, horrible. So this happens all the time. Social intelligence, empathy, self-awareness, all these practices, that's a skill set that you can improve and work on. And it starts with actually getting out there and getting into social experiences so that you can learn and get more feedback about what you're doing right or wrong. Obviously, easier said than done, and I've written a lot of blog posts about this. Other people have, so people have written books about this. We don't have time to cover it. Let's go to number 8. Number 8. The 8th lever, and by the way, this is a lot of levers you can pull. Just pick 2 or 3 for now. Like I said, focus. Number 8, sleep. I mean, this is one of those that people are going to be like, really, sleep? That's obvious. But how many people do it? This is definitely one of the more foundational, I guess you could argue, common levers. But I have to mention it because I just took a sleep course at masterclass.com. By the way, I am a affiliate, which means if you purchase through my link, weirdyoulaugh.com/masterpass, I do get a commission. But I took this sleep class from this sleep scientist expert through masterclass.com. And one of the big points he makes is that it is one of the most overlooked and under practiced foundations to success. You have people who are good at eating well and exercising, and they still fail at sleeping the required amount. He shows some research that says that at under a certain amount of hours, like 6, 5, 4, even 7, there's noticeable decreases in performance in your brain activity, your brain performance, your comprehension, all these things. And there's a reason why top athletes like LeBron James sleep 10 hours a night. It's an investment that can pay off. So potentially something to experiment with, seeing if that extra sleep is worth or not worth the cost. Obviously, there's controversy about this. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one person who's like, you can sleep less. But, pick your poison, see if that investment is worth it or not. Test it out. Tip number 9. The 9th one is basically constantly learning, growing, and developing from your mistakes and failures. Now, what do I mean by this? This is a lever that even I still work at. Here's an example. 1,600 public YouTube videos. Obviously, I don't do this just to make views and subscribers. I want to help people. So that's why I'm okay with not getting a lot of views. People assume that, why you should just quit. You've done 1,600 videos, you don't do well. But that's, I do it to help people. And they're measuring it off something else. But the point is, I could do better with learning what doesn't work or works from my videos. I think one of the reasons after so many videos I still haven't rocketed to 1 million subscribers is because my videos, I haven't really been learning as much as I can from the ones before, or just because I don't feel comfortable doing that. That is a potential weakness that I'm working on, and arguably I have been testing and tweaking. I realized thumbnails really matter. So sometimes I'll put in the time to make a thumbnail. But then other times I'm just kind of like, that's too much work. I'll just throw up this talking head video. You have to learn from your mistakes unless you want to keep repeating them. If you keep getting the same results, something's not working. That's why, you have to switch it up. I'm doing these more listicle style videos now to test them out again. And we may switch it up again. So you have to learn, not just with YouTube, but with anything in life. Let's say you keep failing to get that career you want because you never get that job offer. You make it to the first round of interviews, but not the second. If you keep repeating the same behaviors without reflecting and figuring out what's wrong, you're not going to improve. And then tip number 10. I would lump this into a few different traits, but they're all around the same thing, which is a positive attitude and personality. You want to be, the 10th lever is positivity, optimism, a positive attitude, and a friendly, agreeable nature. All these things are related, not necessarily the same, but they all have that positive sentiment behind them. And again, obviously overlooked a lot. You have a lot of negative or stern-faced, serious people who are trying to succeed, but that last thing could be the X factor that really gets you to succeed. Why? Because think about it. Agreeableness is one of the big 5 personality test traits. And when you look at social interactions, I've had stories where people literally get the job because everything else matches, but the one guy is just friendlier, and that really matters. Ramit Sethi of a top personal finance guru, he said he beat out a lot of MBA candidates when he was still in college for this top job at Sun Microsystems, because when he asked his hiring manager, like, what really tipped the edge for me, it was the fact that he was more friendly and cool to hang around. So that's that extra X factor when everything else is like right match for match, equal for equal. That might push you over in that competitive setting. It's also good for making friends. It's also good for having a good reputation. It's also about kindness, which you never know what might lead to something that can pay you back down the road. Maybe that guy you helped while you're both coming up, he ends up being this big time director 7 years later in life. So kindness can definitely be helpful, because why not? Why be mean when you could be nice? And then optimism, that's more of an internal thing, but related as well. It's more about your own beliefs and your own processes. If you're pessimistic and you keep telling yourself, man, this ain't gonna happen, this, I should just quit now, you're just continuously shooting yourself in the foot and preventing your own success. I mean, the world's hard enough. Why make it harder for yourself? And of course, that's why I believe more optimistic people have succeeded. There's actually been studies on this. There's books on this. There's a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. But there's been some studies on this, and they've shown that optimistic people live longer and are happier. So just from a health perspective, it could be more beneficial. So that's all I got for now. And thanks for watching. Subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.